But all right, we're going to get this thing moving because, like I said, we got two outstanding interviews, not just for the fans of these teams. I tried to hit on a couple different teams with Tony Basilio, and Ben's going to provide some outstanding insight into the transfers that South Carolina landed here in recent weeks. So let's kick it off first with my man, Tony Basilio. This is a great interview. All right, we're pleased to be joined by the legendary Tony Basilio, one of the best out there, not only in the SEC, but the go-to man there for Tennessee and Tennessee athletics. TonyBasilio.com, 99.7 FM, 1040 AM, weekdays 11 to 1. Tony, thank you very, very much for joining the show.
Oh, Mike, it's a real honor, and it's always great to talk to you, so it's a real honor to reciprocate.
Yeah, well, like I was saying right before we started recording here, man, every time we have you on the show, people love it. My dad, I don't think he's ever been as proud of me as when I got Tony Basilio on the show. He's been a long time follower of yours as well, so as have we all. So, man, you're the go-to guy when talking Tennessee football, like I said. So, I really wanted to ask you this because I think the thing that makes you stand out, what makes you unique, is these post-game shows you do where you go all hours into the night.
Yeah.
So what game this year resulted in the longest post-game show for Tony Basilio?
Well, let's look back at that. Guy, you know what? I don't know. Okay. First game of the year, we went all night.
And that was a Thursday night
enough?
game, right?
We went. Yeah, so that game started at 8, and so we were on from 11 to 11 the next morning. I wasn't in there the full 12 hours. We kind of shifted that, but I think I did the first 5.5.
Yeah. Oh man.
I think I went to bed at 4:30 in the morning, something to that effect.
Yeah, and I mean it's great for Tennessee fans. It's great for the opposing fans because if Tennessee loses, they love tuning in and just seeing all these Vols crying and Tony telling it like it is. But that's another thing that I love about you, Tony. You don't sugarcoat anything. You tell it like you see it, like you hear it. And that's another reason I really wanted to ask you this. What grade do you give Josh Hypel for his first season, which had a lot of highs but some lows as well?
I just think from where they came from, it's funny you'd mention that. I've been meaning to do a letter grade day on him on my show, which I guess we never really even got into because there's so much other stuff going on with this transfer, the portal, and this NIL stuff, and just all the talk around the league and the playoff talk and everything else. So thinking out loud here, I'd have to say I'd give him a solid B+. To get an A, you'd have to beat somebody you weren't supposed to beat. So, but I think a B+ probably a pretty fair grade. And, about those post-game shows that I do, one of the things that really baffles me, and you talk to you from all over the league, is the way these games are undercovered post-game wise. I've always found that very interesting that more people aren't doing what I'm doing all across this league. And one of the things that we try to do after these games is kind of celebrate both sides. Like the older I get, the more I appreciate the fact that there's just so much passion across the league, and the fact that without another passionate fan base, without another team suiting up, we're playing hoopties every week. And that's no fun. When you get to these hoopty games, when you're in the Southeastern Conference, you step out of the league, it just makes it a lot more fun when you get and only in the Southeastern Conference do you get as many signature games as you get on any given schedule. And it's up to Tennessee now to rise to the level to become a signature opponent on somebody's schedule. And I think they're heading back in that direction.
And do you think there's pressure on the Vols to make that sooner than later? Because, of course, we don't know when officially, but we got Texas and Oklahoma coming with, those are two marquee programs with marquee fan bases. And I feel like if you're not up to speed by that time, you're just going to get left in the dust potentially.
Well, and I hear, Mike, that they're talking about toward that end how they're going to schedule this stuff, because you're going to have a super league at that point. So I know that one of the schedules, not this season but next season, they've run a schedule with Oklahoma and Texas in it. That's already absolutely in the in the pipeline and ready to go. The the question that we all have is, are they just going to take one team and put both those teams in the West, take two and shift them to the East, or are they going to go to this pod system? Because I think that's the next iteration of Southeastern Conference football. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, they go to that pod system, you could almost make a case. I mean, you could really think radically with that. You could do home and away games like they do in the NFL, have you a mini NFL, play those teams twice, play teams from the other conference a few less times, focus on the East, have like an NFC and an AFC. It would really – I kind of like that pod system. I don't know about playing somebody twice. I like the pod system from the perspective of it would allow you to play other teams. But, yeah, you're right. So Tennessee's got to position themselves in the next couple of years. And I think I think they found a guy here that can give them some stability. Can he high-end win here, Mike? I don't know about that. I don't think he knows about that. Mm-hmm. But can he win enough, entertain enough, sell enough tickets, create enough buzz to stick around for a while? Sure, I think he can do that.
Now, speaking of Josh Hypel there, aside from the fact that he started that Joe Milton's coming out the season, that's something that's hard for me to overlook. But moving beyond that,
agreed.
Short yardage and goal line has been a huge, huge issue. Now, it's year one. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh, but to win these tough games in the SEC, I think back to Pitt. I think to Purdue. There's probably a couple other. They are just not executing on the goal line like they should be. They're not executing in short yardage. Is that something that you got confidence can be fixed this offseason with so many players returning?
I don't know. And also, his mindset, I think, has to change. He's a guy that wants to play fast so much. Mm-hmm. Kenny Rogers once said, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. At the end of some of these games and at the end of some of these halves, you got to use your timeouts.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that's averse to using timeouts. And when you're managing close games, in my mind, you got to squeeze every ounce of juice out of that lemon, or in this case, an orange, that you possibly can. So I watch Tennessee sometimes and I go and talking to people around him, and his philosophy is, well, if I take time out, I'm giving you a time, substitute your players. Mm-hmm. Well, that's fine. But you can't let 10 seconds go off a clock against Purdue.
Right.
Tennessee at the end of a bowl game, to your listener that doesn't follow Tennessee football, they have a chance to kick a field goal in regulation if they manage their time correctly. A closer field goal than the long shot they settled for, which had about zero chance of going through. But he does not take timeouts because he doesn't want the defense to substitute. And I, for the life of me, think that if he continues that, it's going to be difficult for him to function in close games. Because in this league, you've got to be pretty good in close games if you're going to win more than you lose after a 5-year period anyway.
Right, and they managed that against Kentucky, which is so kind of, to me, so baffling why they mismanaged it against Purdue. But that's something for them to work on in the offseason.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
What can you tell us about these new transfers they just added to the roster? Isaiah Neyor, the Wyoming receiver, and Charlie Browder, local Tennessee kid, but he played for Central Florida last year. He's a tight end.
Yeah.
You hearing anything about these two guys?
Well, the Browder kid, it's funny. I talked to a guy in the grassroots area here locally named Will Goodwin, who has a program this kid was a basketball player. Mm-hmm. Will saw him, and he was in the Tri-Cities area, and they got him to come out and play some 7-on-7 football. This new 7-on-7 stuff, summer ball.
Right.
And he caught everything in sight. Caught absolutely everything in sight. And then he ended up over there at the Christ School. He picked the phone up, called Heath Schuler, because Will also knew Navy, mm-hmm. and he ended up over there. So now those two guys are reuniting back here in Knoxville because Navy Schuler's is transferring in. Heath's son is transferring in from App State. Tennessee really thinks the world of that Browder kid. Now, he had several other offers to go to different places out of after he took a year to get bigger and all that stuff when he matriculated to Central Florida. There were other Division I suitors, including the Arizona States of the world, who wanted him to be an offensive lineman. but Will tells me that this kid has high-end receiving ability as a tight end. And then I got corroboration of that from a local guy. When you do what I do, and as long as I've done it, you just get to know these people. Mm-hmm. He texted me when Browder committed to Tennessee a couple of days ago. He texted me that this is a young man who had great hands in basketball. It's the way he put it. He said he also had a way in space of understanding. He called it spatial awareness as a big man in basketball. He said he would have been a nice basketball player, but he said he believes that this kid's going to be a very, very good pickup for Tennessee. As for the young man from Wyoming, if you would have said to me, I watch Wyoming football. If you would have said, I like their uniforms, always have, kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. They're on CBS Sports Network a bunch, mm-hmm. and sometimes their games are on late at night, and they play like at odd hours, and I just always loved watching Wyoming. They play in a really cool little stadium. That kid is going to be a great, not good, he's going to be a great player in this Josh Hypel offense. I predict he's extremely productive for Tennessee next year. And I predict he catches north of, let's just say it right now. I predict that kid catches at least 15 touchdown passes in their offense next year.
Now let me ask you about, of course, the team in the East there that plays Tennessee every year. The Kentucky Wildcats just won 10 games. Are you buying the offseason hype, or do you think this is just another case of Kentucky fans getting fired up and they're going to be disappointed in the fall?
Well, look, I've got a great amount of respect for Stoops and what he's built there. Different variations of Kentucky through the years, they've had some pretty good teams. Mm-hmm. But this guy here has built his, and if you look at the NFL, this guy here has built his program on solid lines.
Yeah.
This is not Hal Mummy's Kentucky. This is not Rich Brooks' Kentucky. I mean, that's a legit football team they put on the field year in and year out. And you pointed to the win over Kentucky for Tennessee. That might be Tennessee's best win of the year. I mean, that Kentucky team was really, really close to being very good. And what are you going to do with Georgia in your league, in your division, and you're mm-hmm. Kentucky? You're light years away from them. But going out and beating Florida like that, going out and beating LSU like that at the University of Kentucky, I mean, at a basketball school, which is what that is, which is what it's always going to be. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I respect the heck out of that Stoops guy. And I've always found their fans, their football fans, to be sort of akin to our basketball fans. They're sort of long-suffering and underserved. So I guess long-term, look, I think for Tennessee to get back to being Tennessee, they've got to get back to beating Kentucky year in and year out, South Carolina year in and year out, Missouri year in and year out, and Vanderbilt year in and year out. I mean, those should be roll-out-of-bed wins. They're not just yet. They should be, but they're not just yet. The guy at South Carolina is really impressing me with the job he's done, Mike. That's, who's had a louder offseason than they've had?
Yeah, no one in the SEC to this point, that's for sure.
No.
And last thing for you, Tony, I really appreciate all your time, because this is the game that all Tennessee fans, at least in the younger generation, got circled year in, year out. Florida, they come to Tennessee this year, and I wouldn't hold it against you if you don't know the Florida schedule, but here it is.
Yeah.
They open against Utah, which just played in the Rose Bowl.
Wow.
And then they play Kentucky at home, but Kentucky should be pretty solid. And then they play South Florida. So we're looking at two big games for the Florida Gators with a new coach, and then they come to Neyland Stadium. I mean, this is a game I think I don't want to put too much pressure on Josh Hypel, but I feel like he's got to win this game.
In your mind, what's Florida's record coming out of that 3-game stretch?
1-2.
As we sit here. Yeah, I agree with that. I think they're 1-2. Because I first of all, I don't think they were very good last year, and I think it showed. And they've had a lot of losses, and he comes in under the gun, and I didn't like that hire. You know why I didn't like that hire? In his league, he had a superior team to most of the teams they played. And one of the things that we've gotten into fooling around with, and I'm not a gambler, okay, but I'm surrounded by them. So you have to follow the numbers when you're surrounded by the gamblers.
Right.
His teams always played down to their competition, always at his level where he just came from, Louisiana. If you do that in this league, and you do that with the Utah, you do that with the Kentucky, those teams will beat you.
Yeah.
So this guy's got to coach better than he did here recently at his last stop. So I'm inclined to agree with your 1 and 2 assessment of them. And if that happens, they'll be just laying there for Tennessee to take. But here's the thing I've learned, Mike. Fool me once, fool me twice. Well, that game's fooled me about 10 times now. So I'm a damn fool. I'm not even a fool anymore. I'm like an effing fool at this point. So if you think I'm coming on your podcast and predicting some bombastic Tennessee win over Florida, you're out of your damn mind. I've seen it, Mike. I'm sorry. I've lived here too long. I've seen it. I mean, we've seen every boob, buffoon, and loser known to mankind beat us here. In the last, they've had guys that couldn't coach, period, end of sentence, come in here and beat Tennessee. So whatever.
Hey, that's why you're the legend, Tony Basilio. I really appreciate your time. Again, check out TonyBasilio.com, weekdays 11 to 1 on 99.7 FM, 1040 AM. I cannot thank you enough, Tony, for joining the show.
Well, yeah, and listen, and we blog every day. Our website is tclub.team. We call it tclub.team. Head over there every day. We put a blog up, and Mike, let me know when this is ready, and I'll go ahead and link it up there. And I always appreciate you when you come. Like I said, when you come on my program, I always appreciate you. You're knowledgeable, and I kind of take you as somebody. You sort of see me the same way. I take you as somebody that does not have an agenda. You just kind of enjoy. You just enjoy the Southeastern Conference and enjoy what we're doing here. And I greatly appreciate you giving me an opportunity here on your forum.
Absolutely. Well, take care, Tony. Have a good night, and I hope to talk to you soon.
All right. Be blessed, man. Thanks.
All right. So just want to say thanks again to Tony Basilio joining the show. Man, what a legend that guy is. I do his show sometimes. He's been on the show a number of times. Really, really appreciate him taking the time to come and talk some SEC football with us.